This is a quick second look at a plugin for Blender which is called ScapeGoat. It's meant to help users lay out a cityscape quickly and easily. What's set up in the back here is an array of buildings, and they each reside in their own blend file. What's in the foreground here is this multicolored mesh. Each of these colors is a material that carries settings, which will help us determine where buildings are going to be placed. If we take a look at the mesh, it's helpful to think of this as a street map where each of these faces is a city block, and then the edges are going to be the streets between them. If we hit the Add Buildings button, we'll see what kind of city we get. Let's take a look at some of the different characteristics that define these different color groups. This blue group is the simplest. Each of the faces in this mesh gets a single building object applied to it. All the objects are scaled similarly so that there's some continuity in the mesh. We can see there are a few faces that don't have objects applied to them. What's going on there is that the size of that face is a little bit small. So in order for these buildings to have continuity, there's a tolerance set up, and these gaps are places where the building would have to be scaled too much in order to fit. All of the buildings in this blue group are aligned along the global up axis, so they all point up regardless of what the geometry underneath them is doing. The situation that creates is, you can see down here, on the uphill side the building punches through the mesh, while on the downhill side it gets cantilevered out into open space. The script doesn't accommodate this yet. There are a number of ways that an artist might want to handle this circumstance, but the script doesn't account for them yet. Let's take a look at this green group. It's very much the same as the blue group. It's just a single building placed per face. The difference here, if we scale out a bit, you might notice that these buildings are a little bit smaller. What I've done for this group is change the tolerance for each building scale. The tolerance is a little bit tighter, but I've set the options so that every building placed will conform to the nearest tolerable scale level, so that rather than hide a building if it's going to be too large or too small, it'll just conform it to the nearest dimension. These yellow and red rows are each set so that there's more than one building in each face. If we look from the top, we can see how they are laid out. Like the blue and green groups, these two are different mostly in how they align to the mesh. This yellow group, the buildings always point up, and they space themselves accordingly, and on the other hand, these red buildings all align to the normal of the face that they're on, so they fit down in a slightly different manner.